Wife 37F cheated on me 37 meters 2 years ago and we worked through it. Now I want to leave and I feel guilty. Story 1. Wife 37F cheated on me 37 meters 2 years ago and we worked through it. Now I want to leave and I feel guilty. Date, March 15, 2022. Just over 2 years ago my wife cheated on me with a co-worker at her work's Christmas party out of town. She told me immediately the morning after. To say I was devastated would be an understatement. This happened pretty much immediately prior to our country going into lockdown, so we were stuck together. I was in a bit of a daze at the time and just kind of went through the motions. I was angry and miserable, but also wanted to understand why she would do it. Hence it made sense to work through it at the time, seeing as we were seemingly stuck together. To her credit though, she did everything possible to make it right. She quit her job, cut off all contact with the co-worker, offered to go to therapy counseling, and even admitted to what she did publicly. I never asked her to do this, and her mother and sister are very close to her and were appalled. She became much more loving and considerate and even offered to let me sleep with someone else. I was actually upset with this suggestion, but she was only saying it out of desperation. Fast forward to now, 2 years later, and by all accounts things feel like they're back to normal again. At least for her. She's no longer moping around the house, stepping on eggshells in conversation, breaking down when anything regarding cheating happens. She started crying while we were watching a soap where a wife cheats on her husband. Unfortunately, I feel like this return to normalcy has reopened the wound. I think about that night more these days than I did during the previous 2 years. I don't know why, but I think that society returning to a bit of a pre-2020 state has made me feel like I've gone back in time to that evening. I can't stand to look at her anymore. Not in a she disgusts me way, but in more of a why are you still even here kind of way. I feel guilty for wanting to leave now after all the work she put in, even though logically I know I shouldn't. I feel like I'm the bad guy for wanting to end the marriage after the work she has put in. I know people will be able to easily say she made her bed etc., but I'm still really struggling with the idea of leaving her, for her sake. I don't hate her for it, but I don't think I love her anymore, and I know this will destroy her. Part of me wishes I was strong enough to have left when it happened. Anyone been in a similar situation or have any advice? Thanks in advance. Edit. Thanks for all the responses. I feel I had already made up my mind about what I needed to do, but having people validate that I wouldn't be wrong for leaving has given me the push I need. I'll be talking to my wife later today. Update: wife 37F cheated on me 37 meters 2 years ago and we worked through it. Now I want to leave and I feel guilty. Date: March 23, 2022. Thanks to everyone who commented on my previous post. I was surprised how much people cared about my benign marriage problems, but it helped me a lot. I checked this account out today to see what the responses were since last week and was taken aback by the number of people who wanted an update. The day after I posted, I talked to my wife and laid out my feelings. I mentioned some of the points that people on my previous post had articulated very well that resonated with me. I told her whilst I had forgiven her, I was struggling to forget what happened, and the fact we were seemingly going back to normal had triggered something in me, and now I couldn't stop thinking about it. I said that whilst I do appreciate all the work she put in to try and save our marriage, I couldn't continue anymore. I mentioned a point that someone on my previous post said, that whilst we were in lockdown it almost felt easier to just ignore the issue to some degree, as I would always know where she was or what she was doing. But recently, for the first time since it happened, she's going into town and visiting friends, and my mind is just running at 100 miles per hour while she's out. Who is she with? Why is she slightly late home, etc.? And I haven't had to confront these feelings before. She cried, I cried. She begged me to stay, I cried again. We spent what felt like hours just sitting together in the living room, not speaking at points. She asked the same questions multiple times. Do I still love her? Will we ever see each other again? Is there anything we can try to make this work? I think eventually she was doing it to delay the inevitable. She's now staying at her mom's house and I'm going to file for divorce. I know it's easy to lay all the blame at her feet when you're on the outside looking in, but I feel just as bad today as I did the day I found out what happened. I am heartbroken again and know full well I'm going to question myself if I've made the right choice. You can tell me it is the right choice all you like, There is no way I will ever be sure this was the right choice. There are no winners with this essay. Everyone is miserable, everything sucks, and I'm here reliving the most painful experience of my life for the benefit of a bunch of internet strangers who probably only want to read about the drama, and have no reason to care about me personally. I don't mean to come across as bitter. I had lots of genuinely supportive comments on my previous post. I'm just really struggling right now. I won't be using this account or responding here again after this post. Thanks to everyone who commented on my previous post. TLDR, wife cheated 2 years ago, originally worked through it, but now I've decided to end the marriage. Everybody loses. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, went through a very similar thing. My ex cheated on me and I stayed for 2.5 years. We even lived together for 2 years. There was points where I feel like I was starting to heal. But deep down the feeling of betrayal never went away and full trust never came back. It's really hard to try so hard for both parties to make it work and then leave, but at the end of the day, months out, I'm a lot happier not having to constantly worry that I could get cheated on again. I trust people until they give me a reason not to trust them. I'm with a guy I completely trust now. And now I know that infidelity is something I can never work through in a relationship. If it ever happens again, I have to leave. Redditor 2, everybody loses. That's what happens when someone cheats. Everyone is a loser. Hopefully Oop finds happiness in the future. Redditor 3, breaking trust in a relationship is like crumpling up a sheet of paper. No matter what you do, you can never smooth it out again. You either learn to live with the creases and wrinkles or you move on. Redditor 4, reading this reminds me of something I read on Reddit a couple years ago. You can do everything right and still lose. Really hope Oop gets through it better than before. Redditor 5, personally, I do believe that relationships can be salvaged even if a partner cheats, but it takes an incredible amount of dedication from both sides. And I applaud people like Oop who have the bravery to keep trying after it happened. It might not succeed like in Oop's case, but he is an incredibly courageous person for trying. Redditor 6, I don't know if I'm in the majority or minority, but after someone cheats, that relationship is beyond saving. Story 2. She cheated and I thought we were a success story. I posted here about what would have been our 23rd wedding anniversary last Sunday, but I've never shared my story. Someone who left a nice comment there encouraged me to share. So here goes. My wife and I met in college, got married after grad school, and had 2 beautiful children together. There were some issues, but life together was generally very good. 3 years ago we were sitting at the kitchen table during tax season. We were discussing finances, not just the monthly budget but the big stuff. I found it a bit odd that she was texting during such an important conversation. It wasn't texting the kids, they were both home. To this day, I have no idea what compelled me to snatch her phone from her hand mid-text. I had never suspected a thing, at least consciously. A look of horror immediately came over her, so I darted into the other room with the phone and locked the door. The text string was about planning a weekend in Vegas with her AP. I was blown away. She was binging on the door, yelling and sobbing. I texted the guy pretending to be her. I wrote something like, "I can't wait to be between the sheets with you again." His response affirmed that they were sleeping together. While locked in the room, I called my brother. He came over and convinced my wife to stay with him for a few days. Drama naturally ensued, but after a couple of months of me living on the boat, we decided to try to reconcile. We had weekly therapy sessions together and alone. We each went to 2 sessions a week for about a year. Some ground rules were set. One rule was that she was never to contact AP again. It wasn't a sacrifice as she had no professional or social connections with him other than the affair. It was a real grind. I had strong emotions of anger, fear, pain, hopefulness, and despair. Gradually, things started to arrive at a new normal. I started enjoying life with her again. I thought that we were a success story. I used to run a search for AP's phone number in our phone provider's call log, often with her knowledge. I did the search less and less as time went on. About a year ago, again without suspicion, I ran the search and there it was. 2 minutes long calls between them and then 2 calls that were over 30 minutes each. I called AP's number and the voicemail announced his name. I felt that it would be ill-advised for me to leave a recording of my thoughts for him, so I hung up. I was crushed. All of the regained trust evaporated instantly. I laid the groundwork by quietly moving some money around, changing passwords, retaining a lawyer, and securing a place to live. After that, I confronted her. I told her that she had broken the ground rule and that I would be leaving and filing for divorce. I went on to say that there was nothing that she could say or do that would change my mind and that discussion on the matter was pointless. Of course, drama ensued. I've been gone for about a year now. We co-parent well and the divorce process has gone smoothly. Our children are well and mostly happy. I guess those are successes.